Hello everyone, welcome to another video here at Numot Gaming from me, Keith the Trastero Watabashi. So as we all know, Omens of the Past has come out and it has changed everything as was expected. And we've all been messing with our own decks, I'm sure, over the weekend, and I wanted to showcase my current favorite brew, Praxis Warp. So I have really enjoyed the warp mechanic a lot. It's very powerful and very fun. If you're not familiar, warp, which something like armor has, means that if this card is on top of your deck, you can play it from the top of your deck. It's really powerful card advantage. It's basically like drawing an extra half a card every turn, because you don't just have access to the cards in your hand, you also potentially have access to something on top of your deck, which is really, really good. I mean, sometimes that's better than drawing cards, because you don't have to spend mana to get the card into your hand to make it playable. It's just playable from the top of your deck. And the reason I say sometimes as opposed to always is because if you don't want to play that card on top of your deck, well, it's better just to draw it and have it for later. But warp is a really powerful tempo effect that makes your options for affecting the battlefield a lot greater than your opponents, because you get to see an extra card every turn. You get an extra variable every turn, which is great. So this is the deck I currently have. This is basically a mid-range grindy deck, and it's kind of a perfect example of mid-range in that against aggro decks, you can play a much more controlling game with your big units like Sandstorm Titan, your strong finishers like Mystic Ascendant, Shatterglass Mage, which gets rid of weapons, Heart of the Vault and Infuser is just nice big blockers with other card advantage. And against control decks and slower decks, you can play more like an aggro deck and do things like, curve out with a Noble Fire main into a Dawnwalker or an Armorer, and then use your Titan or your Mage and your Obelisk, just to start running over your opponent's defenses. So the other thing that makes this deck good against control and other kind of slower or other mid-range decks is the warp mechanic itself. So if you are trading resources with your opponent, the fact that you get extra access to the top of your deck is a really big deal. You're saving mana on seeing more cards, and you always have, again, like that extra half card available to you. And with Mystic Ascendant as your finisher, you are going to build inevitability to this really powerful late game engine of a really big unit and card draw. So it's really, really good at grinding out games, better than I thought. Another thing I like about this deck a lot, other than the fact that I just like mid-range kind of grindy decks, is this deck is a lot more complicated than I thought it was. Or rather, Warp really does force a lot of decision points that I necessarily didn't think of before, about how to use your resources, when to play the Warp cards. It's really, really fun. And this deck in itself uses the new cards with some pretty cool things. So for example, in grindy games, Noble Fire main really, really impressed me. Really great card, good all the time. The fact that you can pay the 5 multiple times means you have a great mana sink. I mean, yeah, it would always be better just to have the Obelisk out, or maybe like something else, maybe like an Obliterate to pay 5 mana. But the fact that you have this great ability to pump your team and get over the top of your opponent's units in the stalled board, attached to a body that can also be relevant early in the game, is great. So Noble Fire main, great early, it's okay middle, and it's great late. But it's good through all points of the game, so it's just really good. AVX Familiar is an excellent role player. It's so much better than Initiate just because it has flying and it has warp. I mean, this card is total value, really utility, does lots of great things. I mean, I have won several games where the board is stalled on the ground, and just the fact that I have a flyer can end the game, especially when you start pumping it with things like Obelisk and Armorer. Armorer is, again, another card that's really impressed me. 3 mana for a 2/2 is not great, but it's reasonable. It'll trade with an early aggressive unit. It doesn't feel good when you have it trade with an Oni Ronin, but the fact that it can trade with Sword of Icaria or like an Argenport Instigator is a good thing. And the fact that it has warp means you get that extra value from it on top of your deck. And the +1/+1 is very, very relevant. So for example, you can pump your Familiar, now you have a 2/2 flyer. You can pump a Titan so that it can block bigger units, and best of all, you can pump a Dawnwalker with it. So if you bring a Dawnwalker into play, pump it with armor, it stays that way forever. So having this be a 5/2 as opposed to a 4/1 is a very big difference. That also means too that if you pump something with the armor, like your infuser or like your, I don't know why you'd pump it something, but in theory, I guess it's unlikely, but you could in theory pump something to high enough power that you get the Dawnwalker back, but really just better just to probably pump the Dawnwalker. Scorpion Wasp is just your, in any kind of mid-range time deck you want this card. It can be in a pinch, an aggressive flyer, especially with Obelisk down, and again, it's just basically a great removal spell. So one thing you will notice about this deck, which is another aspect I really like about it, is it has 38 units, right? 38. So this deck is almost nothing but units, and it only has 8 spells, and 2 of those spells are Brilliant Discovery, which is another great role player card. This card, like, if you can imagine, you don't have a lot of card draw naturally in Time and Fire and Praxis colors, so the only real card draw spell is Ancient Lore, which also costs 4 and also draws 2 cards, because drawing a Fire and a Time Sigil is, 2 cards, right? So the difference why I'm going with this over Ancient Lore is 1, the fact that it's warp, being able to play it from the top of your deck is very important, and 2, you'll notice that we're only playing 25 power, but we have, 7 6-drops, and we have 7 5-drops. So the reason that we can get away with this is because, first of all, Infuser lets us play from the top of our deck, which means we have quicker access to our sigils in the mid-late game. And we also have Familiar, which ramps us a little bit to get to our Infuser. And Discovery just draws 2 power. I mean, that's generally better for our deck than drawing 2 random cards that maybe we don't have the mana for. You could say, well, why don't you play things like Seek Power? But again, Seek Power doesn't have Warp, and Seek Power is only 1. The fact that Discovery can come off the top and draws 2 is a really big deal. And when I play the deck a little bit, you'll see that actually this card does a lot more work than you might think, and it's better than it looks, in my opinion. But anyway, going back to the numbers. So with only 8 spells and 4 attachments, this deck really wants to have continual board presence and really just keep adding to the board and making use of Warp in a way that you just sort of have an endless flow of threats and utility units. So that means that our removal is really, really limited. That's why you only see 2 Instinct, 4 Torch, and 2 Wasp. Basically, you want to go over the top of your opponent, and you always want to be able to add to the board. So instead of trying to trade removal spells, I basically want to fight unit to unit as much as possible. With my really, really big guys like Titan and Mage, Heart, Ascendant, backed up by Obelisk and Firemane. So that's how this deck really wants to deal with troublesome units. The only reason we have 2 Instinct here is because in, again, a stalled board state, or if our opponent has like a deadly unit out and we really want to get rid of it, then that's good. This is a good way to kind of spot removal that doesn't necessarily have us run out of resources quickly, or the other thing about Predator's Instinct is that, if you're going to use it on a Dawnwalker, it gets extra value that way. So between the interaction with the fact that we always want to have a big board and the fact that it's great with Dawnwalker, it makes Instinct pretty good as opposed to something else, especially for the cost. And Torch, because Torch is just great. I mean, this card does everything. It's less a removal spell than it is just a utility, get damage in where we need it, get rid of relic weapons, something to do early, something to kind of play off curve if we're having a little problems with our mana. Also, sometimes you draw it with Heart of the Vault and it costs 0, which is amazing. And so I'll say a couple things about Heart of the Vault, then we'll get to the games. Heart of the Vault is another one of the finishers. It's the Warp Legendary, and I have been very impressed. This card is by no means a powerhouse, but it's such a good utility card and such a good value grindy card. It's incredible. I mean, just as a 6/6/4/6 that draws a card and reduces that card by 2 is pretty damn good in itself. The fact that it has Warp and can come off the top is even better, and the fact that it deals 2 damage, which is usually relevant to some degree, is just great. So it does everything you want. But the reason there's only 3 of these and 4 Mystic Ascendants is because, as you probably know by now, Mystic Ascendant is maybe the best finisher in the game, second to Icaria, and even then that's debatable depending on what the game state is. But really, Mystic Ascendant is just so powerful, and any kind of time deck that gets to turn 6 and wants to be at turn 6, you just have to play 4, at least I would say 3 of this card, and I would always play 4 because it's just that good. So that's what we're going to do. We want to go grind some games out, and let's do that right now. So let's get into one. so far, this deck has good matchups against everything except... I wouldn't say except for the Cockroach deck that people know about. It's more just like... The Cockroach deck is clearly the best deck right now in the meta, and it just is... It's kind of doing insanely broken things. So I'm not going to try to, tech or meta that deck. I'm just going to play it, and if they beat me, they beat me. But this deck is good against everything else. And you do have game against the Cockroach deck. I mean, like, Shatterglass Mage and Torch does do some work there. This is a pretty good hand. We have great mana, we have early interaction, we have an early play, and then we have some finishers to get into that we have the mana for. So all we have to do is basically not flood, and we should be all right. Well, if I had to guess, this would be the Cockroach deck. So starting off right away with a tough matchup. But again, not impossible. We do have game against them, and we shall see. If our opponent just jams the Crown of Possibilities right here, that's going to be bad for us. If they have to wait a little bit and we get a chance to kill it with the Shatterglass Mage, that's really good. Ugh, Temple Scribe, you are so good. See, this is another good thing about this deck, and the way it curves is, with having Torch and Scribe early, it can kind of help you survive and stabilize to get to your more powerful plays. Like Titan, and Infuser, and Shatterglass. Probably not going to bother torching this. I mean, we can easily take that damage. It's not a big deal. Okay. So our opponent did not have... Oh, that's perfect. Sometimes revenge isn't great, man. Should have drawn cards first. So our opponent had an Echo effect, which I'm going to assume is a Cockroach. So we're just going to go ahead and jam Titan here. This is great because now we're in a really good spot where if our opponent plays Crowd of Possibilities, we can immediately destroy it. And if they don't, we can play an Infuser and start the Warp Machine going. Like, going Infuser into Heart of the Vault is a pretty good way to start generating card advantage through Warp. So that's what I think we're going to do. Although there is some merit to playing Torch here to get in for 5, but not yet. I mean, there's a 3/3 Roach in there somewhere that I guess we'll get rid of. Let's go ahead and play this and say go. So our opponent's going to have giant Cockroaches. We need to draw cards and get to Mystic Ascendance and Obelisk. We can get bigger than the Cockroaches. That's not a problem. The problem is how quickly we get there. There is something wrong with this meta where a deck that has this many different mana requirements can hit it so smoothly. I mean, look how greedy the mana is in this deck. Double Primal, double Time. What is going on here? So this we get to play our Time Sigil, which is great. The fact that that's another Sigil is not so great. Because if it was anything else, we could use this. I guess if we really wanted to, we could still play this just to get a 6/6 on the board, even though we don't get the cost reduction, which is kind of a bummer. At the same time, I mean, how badly do we really want to save this for value as opposed to just getting the 6/6 on the board? I guess getting the 6/6 on the board is fine. Although, I'd almost rather wait just because I can go Torch and Hero in the same turn and maybe draw something better. Yeah, that's probably better. And like this turn, I can play a Mage and Torch this and swing and get an Overwhelm unit down. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, we have 2 Shatterglass Mages and our opponent hasn't played Crown yet, so I don't think Crown of Possibilities is going to be a big deal this game. And certainly not 2. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to Torch this, and we're going to attack. We'll probably use this and go to the face. Ooh, no, our opponent's not going to block. Wow, okay. I wonder why they didn't block. That was interesting. So now if our opponent wants to set up a like crown, draw cards, clock roach, we can blow up the crown and start smashing for a decent amount of damage. Basically a 2-turn clock. So now we really want Obelisk or even the Fire Main, because we can just dump mana into that and grow our board pretty decently for some attacks. Nothing but cockroaches. But you can see, like, our guys aren't really being outclassed by that much. I mean, we have a pretty decent sized board. Yes. See, this is where we get to see a lot of cards. So if you'll notice, we're 59 cards to our opponent's 58, and we've played 0 card draw spells. And our opponent has played 2, 3? Yeah. Okay, so now we don't know what this is. So it's not a power card, which is great. The fact that we know it's not a power card means this guy is going to get us value no matter what. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to kill this. There was some merit there to waiting to attack and seeing where our opponent blocks and using this to finish something off. But I think this is good enough. So we're going to attack with everything. I just want to keep putting pressure on our opponent. We have big units. We're seeing lots of cards with warp. If our opponent double blocks here, that's going to be kind of a bummer. But it's not the end of the world because we hit them for 7. And then we kill this. We kill the big guy. Yeah, that's fine. And I mean, our opponent has no flying right now, so it's not like we really need to worry about that so much. So our opponent's going to drop 2 more clock roaches. They're going to what, 6/6 and a 7/7? It's pretty big. Oh my god. This is where it gets ridiculous. Still, it's not the worst. Like, we're going to see a lot of cards because our opponent doesn't have any Overwhelm or anything like that, and we have some decent blockers. So we can attack with both of these and use Torch to maybe finish... Well, if we attack with both of these, we block. Yeah, I guess we kind of have to wait now and start digging for Obelisk and I guess Mystic Ascendant would be pretty good here. Yeah, I think we'll play this. We just want to keep, like I said, we just want to dig for cards, so Warp is pseudo card draw. And again, they have no crown, and we have 1 backup anyway, and there's no point waiting to try to get rid of that. It's better just to try to generate as much value as possible. Yeah. And our opponent can't really attack either because they'll be dead. So we're just going to sit back for now. I think our opponent only has, what, 3 clock roaches in their hand? Something like that? Yeah. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so that last card's a clock roach. Mystic Ascendant is a good draw. I'll take it. Ooh, a Dawnwalker. I like that too. Okay. So now... Ugh, I really want Obelisk. There is a real good... I think we just attack with this. Like... It's not doing anything, and odds are our opponent is going to block with like one of these two, and we can kill it. We can grow this to an 8. That seems pretty good. Yeah, let's do that. Having the Overwhelm and the fact that our opponent is down to 1 card means that starting to trade a little more aggressively and trying to start putting a clock on our opponent or putting pressure on them. I mean, I really want them to play this last Clock Roach because that makes the rest of their top decks pretty bad. The fact that they can keep 1 Clock Roach in hand and wait till they get card draw spells is where it can just go overboard. So if we can put pressure on them to just on the off chance, empty their hand with a lot of attackers, then that's fine. Ugh. Oh, I guess I counted wrong. So I think if we get an obelisk, we almost have lethal here. Well, not lethal, but we have really, really good attacks. So that's what we're looking for. And we're going to see a lot of cards. It's not very good. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, that makes it a pretty easy swing all. We're gonna lose the Mystic, but that's a lot of damage coming at our opponent. Like he could double block here, but then he takes 14, 20, 26 if he doesn't block. So yeah, he's gonna lose his 7/7, and he's gonna take 14, 18. Maybe it's a mistake to attack with the Mystic there. I generally like to play pretty aggressive against this deck and force them to play to the board rather than just dirtle in their hand until they get like all the game text in the world. Well, our opponent's thinking about it, so I'm going to guess that they're trying to figure out how not to die here. And we also have 3 other Ascendants in the deck, so it's not like I'm greatly worried. Plus, we could just draw a Torch and kill them. Or we could also draw another hero and kill them too. So our opponent being at 1 with no crown gives us a lot of outs. Some big cockroaches. Temple Scribe is fine. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta do that. Dead. Dead. Take that, cockroaches. There we go. 1-0 so far. So that's a good example of how this deck can grind out games. Which is really what happened. I mean, our opponent played gigantic dudes, but we had bigger dudes, and we saw more cards than them. Or by the end of it, they probably saw more cards. But we saw plenty of, like, we basically were able to keep up with their card advantage while also playing big guys to the board. Warp is sweet. You could argue that this deck is just another Sandstorm Titan Obelisk deck, which is definitely a thing. I mean, Xenon Obelisk is one of the best cards in the game, and Sandstorm Titan is one of the best cards in the game, and so is Mystic Ascendant. So, like, you put those 3 cards together, and you can kind of build anything else around that, and you're not going to be doing too bad. And you could say that this deck is just another iteration of that. We're going to keep this hand. We have good mana, we have a turn 3 play, we have early interaction with some of our late games, so it's kind of what we're looking for. I would like to see a 2-drop. I'd like to see an Infuser maybe. The games where you get Infuser down are so much, like, being able to play power from the top of your deck is so good, and it creates such great virtual advantage. Because it doesn't create necessarily card advantage, right? But, I mean, it kind of does, because like a card draw, because you can play it every turn. But being able to cycle through dead draws like that also help you because, you know, you up your power count. It's just so good. Speak of the devil. But I think 3 is the perfect number. I mean, in the early versions of this deck, I started with 4, and you really only want 1 a game. You don't want to be playing multiple Infusers, because you can only play 1 power card a turn. I'm going to offer my opponent the trade, but there's a good chance they don't take it. So next turn, if our opponent doesn't kill our familiar or silence it, and we get to go to 5 mana next turn, this is kind of where you get the first interesting decision point, where, you know, we could just go ahead and jam a Titan, but you really want to get your Infuser down as quickly as possible. So what are we at? We're at 4, right? Could offer the trade. I don't really... Thing is, I don't really care about this because I have double Titan, so I don't want to lose my ramp ability right now. This deck you do want to set up for more powerful mid-late game plays as opposed to just going directly at your opponent. Unless you really can. Sometimes you do get aggro draws with like a bunch of Wayfarers and stuff, which is great, but that's usually not the best play. Ugh, no powers. That's kind of a bummer. So this is interesting. I could play Sandstorm Titan, which is probably the best play since I have another one. Yeah, I don't think I can really afford to take 7 next turn. I kind of like to curve out while I have the 5 mana, but since I have an extra Titan, I guess we'll go ahead. But, you know, Sandstorm Titans are so easy to kill if you're playing against Feln. Between Feeding Time, especially Annihilate, even Death Strike, it's just not going to last. So, you know, it kind of sucks because you sort of expect that, but I think you have to force your opponent to have it. I really would have liked to get a power there and get Mystic Ascendant down, or be able to do 2 things that turn. Well, at least now we get a... we're going to hold you back. In fact, we're going to hold you back too. Because I'm going to play the other Titan. At this point, because we're a little mana choked and we've taken some hits, we're kind of dependent, we're leaning heavily on this Titan to survive. To kind of slow our opponent's clock down. And it did. Ooh, this is not good. Oh, this is not good at all. And we're going to miss next turn too. Uh-oh. That's not good. I guess we'll play Reinarch. And let's go. So what could our opponent have that got echoed? I guess that's either a Thunderstrike Dragon or... the Hurler. So this is an example of where the game just starts to grind. Let's go ahead and attack with the Reinarch. Really want to get to 6 mana. We have a lot of good plays if we do that. And again, this Titan, this is where Sandstorm Titan is just so powerful. I mean, it's just a house in these kinds of situations. But we're in a pretty precarious position right now since you know one removal spell and we're gonna take 10 damage. I mean, that's just not good. So this is one of the downsides of only playing with 25 power. But you can see we're not. I mean, we have game, right? Like there are a lot of things we could that you know we could still do. We still have impact on the board. Just we're a little flooded on 6s right now. This is really bad. I mean, how long can we dodge a removal spell? Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. We're still dead if this Titan gets removed, because it's just so much damage in the air. But, you know, having a Wasp isn't awful. I think we're going to go ahead and play it. There we go, finally. So let's see here. Why does this guy have to be a 7/7? That's so gross. I guess we'll attack. No, okay. Because what I kind of want to do is attack, and because I do want to, and then I assume our opponent would block with this, and then or with one of these, and then we could play this and finish it off. But that's not great. I think we'll just play another Obelisk while we can, since I do just want to start running these things out. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Okay. Looks like both my opponent and me are a little bit flooded on mid-range units. What are they gonna draw that's bigger? Slightly confusing. Yeah, whatever. I'll just... No reason to risk a card we can actually use. Okay. Pretty tempted to attack with this. Like if I wanted to keep grinding and grind card advantage, I could play the Ascendant and draw a card with this. But I think the better play is to attack with the Dawnwalker and see what they do. And I assume they're gonna block with something, and then we can just get it back with this. So let's do this. So first, let's play this since we're almost certainly not gonna play the Ascendant. And then let's attack. This is a 3-turn clock. This is not nothing. Okay. So now we will probably play an Ascendant here. If they kill this, we are still dead. We cannot beat a removal spell, so we have to pretend like our opponent doesn't have one. What could I draw that would be better than waiting? I guess we could draw a Torch. Nah, that's just not good. We're going to play this. Oh, I guess we could draw a Wasp. If we drew another Wasp and the Wasp only cost 1, that would be pretty good. So many champions. So many champions. We're going to attack again. Yeah. Oh, wait, this guy's a 10-10 now. Oops. Huh, that was interesting. Take 2. Titan. That's gonna be okay. Well, so we need to fade this. If our opponent does not draw a removal spell on the next draw, then we're gonna be in really good shape because we're gonna have a second Titan versus our opponent drawing 1 card, and we're gonna get both our obelisk to double plus. Yes, we got there. Woohoo! 2-0 with warp. That was pretty perilous. 1 removal spell from our opponent and we were sunk. Still though, you know, part of that is that they drew so many threats. So if they had drawn the removal spell and drawn less threats, then we could have attacked more. So the game would have played out so differently if they killed it early. Just the game got to this ridiculous state where at any point a removal spell from our opponent was going to kill us, and we got lucky. This is definitely a mulligan since we're on the play. On the draw, I would probably consider keeping this just because I have a turn 2 play with some really good early game. This is a really good early curve, but it needs a lot of help. And we're going to play first. You know, maybe we'll try it. Like, this hand still has a playable on turn 2, and all it needs is a 3rd power, and we can start ramping with our familiar. Yeah, that's not great. The reason, you know, I wanted to... Oh, that's not good. That is one bad thing about Warp, is if you know you need to top deck a specific card, and you know for a fact it's not there. So any sense of hope goes out the window. Huru. Huru Flyers, huh? Okay. Well, I guess we'll offer the trade. Oh, I love this card. This card is so good. I suppose that was kind of a greedy keep, but this hand had a lot of possibilities. And if it had less early play, I would not have kept it. But the fact that once we got to a 3rd power, we have a lot of options we can do that are, you know, proactive with Temple Scribe and Familiar, and reactive with Wasp, means you have getting that 3rd power is so good right away. I think it's worth keeping. Whereas, like, if we had like 4 drops and stuff, then, you know, even a 3rd power doesn't do anything. Or if we just had all 2s, where a 3rd power also does nothing. You know, oh, that's not good. I think we're going to go from 2-0 to 2-1 here, since we had 4 non-power draws. Who knows? Our opponent is also stuck on 2, so it's not the end of the world. but since they're playing Argenport, they have a lot better options for aggression early, which is bad for us. Sure. Yep. I don't think this deck really wants 4 Shatterglass Mages. I think there's some room here to play something else or play extra copies of something. But I'm playing 4 of these right now because it's a good aggro card. It's the only 5. There's only 2 5-drops in the deck, and this one's the more proactive. Overwhelm is really important. I mean, you saw in that game against the Cockroaches where if we didn't have the Overwhelm, we wouldn't have put them in such a such a low life total. Okay, finally, this might be too late. I think we're just gonna hold up Wasp and say go. I want to force our opponent to start drawing better than us. So if they don't have a 4th power and they can't play things like Impending Doom, I want to try to take the initiative on the board by getting rid of the threats and trying to stick like one of these mages or familiar or something. And against anything with Shadow, playing a familiar is like, or any kind of 1/1 unit, can just go so wrong. Okay, well now we're going to just draw because we need to draw. Okay. Let me get that life back. Okay, so we got a chance. We're getting there. We're getting there. We have a Titan. Don't really have too many bad draws next turn. If you draw another 6-drop or 5-drop, that'd be pretty bad. But other than that, we got plays. Yeah, that's not good. That's not really a big deal, though, because, Titan stabilizes the board pretty well. We're going to be looking at a situation again where we need Titan to live. So if this Titan lives and, we basically get a chance to go Temple Scribe into Familiar or, Temple Scribe hold up Wasp, we'll be in pretty good shape. But our opponent hasn't played much, so they either have a jammed hand kind of like us, or they have a lot of removal, like, extra copies of Slay, some Annihilates. But our opponent's thinking about it, so I'm going to guess they don't. Sandstorm Titan. Totally earns its legendary status. It's been overpowered and pushed since forever, and it still is, baby. Ooh, I don't know about that attack. I guess I smell a Finest Hour. If it's Rapid Shot, that's really bad. If it's Finest Hour, we can block. The question is, can we afford to not block? I don't think so, because if it's a Rapid Shot, we're just dead. Yeah, I think we have to block, and we have to block like this. So if our opponent has a Rapid Shot, if they have 2 Rapid Shots, if they have 2 pumps, we're dead. If they have 1 pump, we're probably gonna lose our Titan. But at least we make them choose between their Beast and their Bird. Or our opponent could be playing a Vara's Favor, also a possibility. Yeah, okay, well that's fine. I don't think we can afford to not block there. Okie dokie. I want to play 2 cards this turn, like really bad. I guess we could play this into one of these. That seems fine. And then I guess if we have a chump blocker if we need it. Okay. We'll do that. I'm not seeing a lot of Overwhelm, and our opponent just played a Vara's Favor. So there's a good chance that they don't have another removal spell right now. And, ooh, that's not good. That's okay, though. That's okay. We're going to gain a life, and we're going to hold up Wasp. So, that's okay. That's fine. We go to 5, and we say go. And we survived this long. I don't think we're gonna win because we're too low. But you know, did a pretty decent job of trying to stay in this game. Yeah, I think we just take the 2. I think if we, why would you do that? Oh, so it comes back with Aegis. Yeah, that's cute. I think if we block and go down to less than 6 mana, we just can't win. I don't think we can beat this anyway, so let's just start drawing cards. It is possible that you want some kind of life gain in this deck, like something like a Lumen Defender for these kinds of situations, like maybe trading some of these out for a Lumen Defender. But I think right now there's more relics or attachments going around than not. I mean, you know, there's the Roach deck, obviously, and what, we're dead. You are a worthy foe. Yeah, I think we could have won that game if our draw worked out a little better, but you know, we still had game. We weren't totally blown out. I mean, you know, we had plenty of time to see draws, and the game goes a little bit differently. We can get a little more aggressive, start attacking with our Shadowglass Mages. The fact that we drew 3 cards that we couldn't play, and that, you know, are sort of low impact when you play them unless they're getting rid of an attachment, it was really bad draw for us, but oh well. So this hand is a keep. It's kind of the opposite of the other one that had a lot of early play. This has lots of mid-game play and has perfect mana, as opposed to early game play with tough mana. But Sandstorm Titan is so powerful, and Zane Obelisk is so powerful, I think it's worth keeping. So this hand is low on interaction, and it's slow, but it's high power. And I think that's worth keeping. You know, one thing I've learned with Eternal is the opening mulligan. Well, first of all, one thing that keeps... I mean, I am a huge opponent of the 75-card deck size. I think it's a really bad design decision, personally. I think the fact that it makes it so hard to get synergies and to have build-around cards consistently happen is a really bad thing for the game, personally, and bad for gameplay. I mean, if you see a really cool card, like let's say... Like, I really like spell decks, so if I wanted to play Cradle that require, you know... And there's nothing else that really does anything like that, I have to play these decks that have tons of card draw and, you know, just kind of wait to get to my 1/4 of, and then, you know, that's when the deck takes off. And when it happens, it's really fun, but that's going to happen, I mean, 1 out of 3 games maybe that you get to play it on 4, and maybe, you know, you only see it in half your games. So anyway, one thing about the 75 card deck size that Direwolf has said, hold that thought. So one thing I want to say that I think is true of Warp is, if you have the option to, and there's no reason not to, always play the Warp card. Get the card advantage, dig deeper into your deck. It's worth it every time. So even though we're holding back on our really powerful plays, I think seeing the extra card and getting the extra card out and digging deeper into your deck creates that sort of half tempo step that is really, really valuable and kind of what you want to be doing. So like this, for example. And our opponent's not, you know, this is clearly they're playing Armory based on these colors and the lack of early game. So, you know, it's not a big deal to... No, too bad. I'm going to go ahead and torch this, because if we draw a mana, we can shoot it. Yes, that's exactly what we want. If we didn't, we could play this. I don't have a lot of targets for torch anyway in this matchup, so giving me the opportunity to get the best possible play, I think is worth it. Sure, you have slayed him. Generally speaking, this deck has a pretty good matchup against Armory. Icaria can be tough if... yeah, that's fine. Ah, yeah. Look at that. Look at that sweet, sweet value. We're just digging through. So, our opponent's going to go to 7. We could play Titan, and if our opponent is planning to play Icaria next turn, we could play Titan to prevent them from that. But I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to... Well, let's see here. is it better than playing Obelisk? Because if our opponent, because Ikaria is the only card I'm really worried about. This deck again has 38 units, so it's really hard for the relic weapons to hit you in the face. They have to like harsh rule and have a weapon. Plus you have 4 Shadowglass mages. The issue is I can wait, because if I play like Obelisk this turn, the next turn I can just play like a Reinarch and give it killer and just smash Ikaria. I don't really care if this guy's 6. I don't really want to feed my opponent a target for removal before I really need this card. I think I can take 1 hit from Ikaria. Yeah, let's do that. It's basically, do I think my opponent's going to play Ikaria next turn? And if I do think that, can I afford to take a hit from her? And I think the answer is yes. Oh, so good. You are so good. Let's draw. I think our opponent probably has a harsh rule. Okay, well that changes things a little bit. Okay, now I think we're gonna play Titan. Nah, I think we'll play the Reinarch. Well, no, let's play Titan. Let's play Titan. Let's force the harsh rule. This way, again, it defends against Ikaria, and it kind of forces the harsh rule out of our opponent, but we have plenty of backup. So I'm not too worried about a harsh rule here. It's unfortunate that we don't have like a Dawnwalker or something. But our opponent's down to 2 cards. You know, they only get 1 relic weapon back with Smuggler Stash, so it's not like we're losing a whole lot of tempo. And again, it has to do with the fact that if our opponent does have Ikaria, then I really want to make sure we don't get smashed by it right away. So now we're going to play Titan and present lethal. I'm saving the mage just because you know, if our opponent tries to follow up with something, we can just immediately get rid of it. 2 harsh rules. That's cute. Ooh, that's a good draw. Okay, but well, our opponent has 1 card, so we're just gonna play them. We're gonna do our most powerful thing. I don't want to play too timid here. I'd rather have this on the board than Shadowglass Mage. Oh, that's unfortunate. Too bad, too bad. We might have lethal anyway, because we hit them for what? This comes down for 7. Take 3, you take 9. Almost. I guess if we draw another Obelisk, that's lethal. Because this will come across for 9. You'll take 5. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, let's just go nuts here. Let's do this. Nothing, huh? Bummer. Let's do this. And I guess if I want to, nah, we'll just do this. I'm just going to assume our opponent doesn't have a 3rd harsh rule, but never, you know, never underestimate the ability of top decks in this game. This is a good example of how good this matchup is for this deck, because you have such a steady stream of units to gum up their relic weapons, and they're also big units, and you know, you're also resilient to harsh rule, because again, when you're playing at the top of your deck, it makes your ability to recover from board wipes so efficient. So really, the only big threat is Ikaria, and maybe people haven't figured that out yet. Because again, like when we said in the deck tech, you know, this deck is so light on interaction. Yeah, I think that's just lethal. Die. Boom. That was a good game. That something as big as Ikaria with like Aegis and everything is really bad. Yay, we're winning. I mean, if you like grindy games, you know what I mean, then this deck is for you. Not the Haggis of Doom. That is a great, great name. This is an interesting draw. We're gonna mulligan. So the difference between this hand and the other one we kept is the playables we have are too expensive. So it's gonna take us multiple draws to unlock this hand, and we don't want that. So we want to have more action right away. This hand's much better, simply because we get to play Temple Scribe on turn 2. God, how good is Temple Scribe? Amazing. Just amazing. It does everything you want in an early unit. Sweet. And we get to make it a 2/2? Oh, how lucky are we? Aw, sad day. Xenon. I don't think I've played against Xenon recently, or maybe at all lately. I don't really know what I want to do against Xenon. I guess because we have Mystic Ascendant, we'll play a little bit of a slower game. What are they going to do? Maybe he's going to play on turn 3. Could be a Dawnwalker, could be a Conduit, could be an Argentport Instigator. Let's see. I guess because we don't have a 5-drop yet, we'll play a Temple game and just play this guy. Underwhelming, but you know, with multiple copies of the Armorer or like Obelisk, any unit on the board is good for us. So I'm just gonna assume our opponent has some kind of removal, or they just have bad mana. I think I'm just gonna play the Fire Main. Like, I don't want to necessarily get this killed right away, and something like an Impending Doom is a really hard clock for us. I guess, though, if I play this and they kill it... See, the advantage to playing this guy is, and part of why this guy is so good, is because if they do nothing again, then we can just pay 5 and pump our units and start smashing face without exposing our more powerful cards as we kind of build to Mystic. If they do remove it, that's one removal spell gone, then we can just play Sandstorm Titan. Yeah, I think I like that. Playing this now gives us more options later. And we're not going to kill our opponent especially fast, even if we did play Titan. Ooh, that's quite nice. Yes, I would like to play that guy. That's why Warp is so good. You get that extra card every turn. Or, you know, not every turn, but sometimes. Oh, that's a bummer. So they did have the removal spell. But see, there's a big difference that our opponent had to play that from hand, and we played our guy from the top of our deck. That is just so awesome. And now they've exposed their Conduit, which is going to get smashed. And now I don't care if they use a removal spell, since we got value. And yeah, that's going to be a nice 2 for 2. Dark Return would sort of hurt here. Yeah, that's too bad, but what can you do about it? That is such a powerful interaction, and one of the reasons you play Xenon, so, you know, not much you can do about that. Oh, that's annoying. Ow. Obelisk. Do we just start racing here? Maybe we do. Yeah, sure, why not? Take 6. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. That's not good for us. Okay. Don't want to play the Ascendant yet. We're just going to... that's too bad. I guess we're going to take 8 again. But we will put our opponent into lethal range, so it's not the end of the world. So we'll see what they have. There's no point. I mean, we can't kill this, so we're just going to attack. Like, we're dead to a lot of things, but so is our opponent. Like, if they attack and do nothing, we just kill them with our Noble Fireman. Yeah, that's a problem. Well, Turns out Copper Conduit and Dark Return is really good combo. And our opponent did have the Death Strike, so I don't think it would have been better to play the Sandstorm Titan. I mean, it's not like our damage came any slower. Because we probably would never have gotten to attack with the Titan, maybe once. But that we got to attack for, I think, 2, so maybe they'd be down to like 4 instead. But basically, you know, our opponent having double Dark Return on this is just too good. Like, there's nothing we can do, so, oh well, we'll play this. I don't think we can block our way out of this. Maybe we can. Because we can chump block the Direwood Beast and take 1 and go to 1. Yeah, or that might happen. Well, good game, good game. We can't beat the Haggis of Doom. That game we needed a Wasp would have been really good. Yeah. Nah. Or just, you know, a little bit of a smoother curve. You know, our curve is a bit awkward. But to be fair, our opponent made some extremely powerful plays. Like, I mean, Dark Return on Copper Conduit is one of the most powerful interactions in the game. One that maybe arguably shouldn't work that way, but, you know, that's not for me to decide. Like, I don't know why it doesn't come back as a 1-1. Oh well. Piercing Shot. Let's just keep drawing cards because I like drawing cards. That was a good game, though. I mean, our opponent really had to kind of get there, and they did. We pseudo got there. It's just we're not doing like this deck doesn't have knockout plays the way the Xenon deck does. Not to mention also having the Reaper was really good. That extra 5 life obviously mattered quite a bit. There's so many 1-1s. This is going to be a long game. Yeah, we're just going to trade now. We're going to trade now before things get like quick draw and other random stuff. Ooh, that's going to be really good next turn. No, we're going to hold back. There's no reason to try to attack 3 of these. With a Heart of the Vault coming and double Fire Mains, we can play a long game. And look, so beautiful. There's no power here. Oh, wait, no, we don't know that. We don't have our guy. Never mind. Okay, there could be power there. Sorry. It's not as good as I thought it was. Still pretty good, though. Yeah, that's pretty good. Get in there, Titan. I guess we're playing against Mono Fire. So they're going to blow up one of my big guys. Yes, they are. Oh, no, they're going to hit me in the face. I guess that's fine. Yeah, let's use the ability. And we'll just swing in for a lot of damage. Boom, 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 boom. Well, let's hope we don't die this turn. Seems unlikely. Yeah. Did we really lose 3 games? Oh, I guess we did. What did we lose to? Oh, yeah, we had a bad draw and we got outgrinded or outpowered a couple games. But hey, we beat the Clockroaches deck right out the gate, so could be worse. This hand is fine. It's a little awkward. I don't really like having the Instinct in my opening hand or the Shatterglass Mage. Well, it depends, right? If we're playing against Clockroaches, I absolutely love this being in my hand. But we have perfect mana for our early game, even though it's kind of slow. And we have an early play with an Obelisk. Let's see how we're going to do this. Anyway, getting back to the 75 card deck and things about mulliganing, what I was saying about that is, so one of the things Direwolf has said in defense of the 75 card deck is that they want the games to play out differently more often than not. So instead of just having a deck that is a perfect engine that runs the same way every time, and you're going to see the same cards every time, kind of in the same order, and you're going to have the same gameplay experience almost every time, what they like about 75 cards is that... Ooh, another Xenon deck, okay, chance for revenge. Is that the games could play out differently. You could your deck could have multiple interactions and multiple proactive and defensive capabilities, and you're going to experience a wide range of them over the course of like a few games as opposed to the course of like 10 games. We're just going to play... kind of like drawing cards, but I also like playing Obelisk. We'll hold this for later. We'll just get the Obelisk down. We get on the board quicker. We're just going to start smashing. So that being said, one thing so with that in mind, knowing that they want the game to play out differently, each time, knowing that they want decks to play differently, with a lot of options do that. That means that I think decks in general need to be constructed with this mindset of, okay, what are the 30 cards I'm going to see that are going to win this time? What are the 30 cards that are going to... If you're trying to rely on the same 15 cards to win you the game, you're going to have a really tough time with that deck. Whereas if you have a deck where you have, 40 cards, you have like 20 cards that can win the game, then that's a big difference. So again, always play the warp card, because that pseudo card advantage is very, very real. This is interesting. Are we playing against tokens? I think we are. If we're playing against tokens, that makes Shatterglass Mage my best card. So when you are looking at your hand and you're thinking about, what are you going to mulligan or how are you going to mulligan? Want to play this guy first in case there's a power card on top. We can get rid of it. We can cycle that. But there's not, which is unfortunate. So go ahead. You need to think about what are the cards, how do the cards in my current hand play out to this strategy, and how do they play out to that strategy? So this deck has great versatility in how that can happen. You can... I think he killed the wrong one. I think I would have killed the Ramper. What do they say in Magic? Always bolt the bird? Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. Almost certainly we're going to play this. 4, he goes to 5. No, I want to protect my blocker. Oh, sadly we don't have a power card here. That would make the warp train really good. Okay, we'll do this. Dang, I really want to get rid of this. I wish I could, but I cannot. I guess if I want, I could attack with this and give him killer and finish this off. That seems unnecessary. Our opponent's only at 4 mana. They're not playing Justice, so there's no fear of Harsh Rule, so I think we're just going to curve out. We're going to play a grindy game. If our opponent wants to use removal on a token, which is basically what this is, I'm not going to have a problem with that. And with this guy in play, it makes our ability to see business cards so much better. Oh, 2 Titans. Well, that's not very nice. Or maybe it's just the Xenon mid-range deck? I don't really know what I'm seeing here. Bummer. Okay, so now we are going to give you killer, and we're going to get rid of you. And we're smashing in. I sort of want to attack with this guy too. Nah. Our opponent can just chump block for days, man. I guess we just attack with everything. Like, we have a torch, so we can kill this Sandstorm Titan no matter what he blocks. And this way we get in for damage, so that's fine. So we have 7, 12, 16, 19, 22. I guess we could dump our hand and go for lethal. I mean, what is the attachment they could possibly play, right? It's unfortunate that this is on top, because it stops the warp train, but oh well. And you see the difference here. Our opponent is playing very similar deck to ours. It looks like they're playing a mid-range deck, Sandstorm Titans, Temple Scribes, you know, some removal. But they are at 57, and we're at 56. Oh, well, I guess they drew more. I guess they drew a lot of cards too. Well, at any rate, I guess I'll just hit you to the face. I could draw a Torch. Ooh, a Dawnwalker. Doesn't really do anything. I don't think it's quite lethal, but it's pretty close. Oh, yeah, it is. What am I talking about? Why am I so bad at math? That's why I'm still on Diamond. Here we go. Keep going. 2 more games. We're going 10 games today. Always 10 games. But just to finish, okay, so to finish the thought, with it, you know, in mind, keep in mind that the game is designed for one deck to have multiple lines of play and multiple strategies. When you're looking at your opening hand, think about how this hand can win according to this strategy of your deck. Don't just think about I have to have A and B to get to C, because you can also have, you know, your B line of play or the tier 2 line of play, but if you have enough cards there that it can be an A plan, then you can, you know, focus on that too. Yeah, we'll keep this hand. Playing against Grimfan. What's up, Grimfan? Yeah, this hand's fine on the play. Get this going. Ooh, okay. Now we're playing some Huru. Wow, look at that shiny foil. I'm gonna give that some kudos. Very impressive, very impressive. Foils are very cool. This is just gonna be take some beats while we ramp up and then try to swing back for the win later. I wish I could play that, but I can't. Making a 3/3 is not bad, but we're just gonna ramp. I mean, I don't really care about taking 2 damage here. Look at you with all the shiny cards. I don't blame him though, man. If I had the time and/or money to grind, I would want all the foil. Ooh, that's gonna hurt, but he doesn't have a lot of good options. Well, you're coming down. Yeah, we're just gonna. I kind of do want to draw. Nah, we're just gonna keep ramping. Like, we might not need Obelisk to win here, so I'm not too sad about that. If he had gotten like a Mystic Ascendant or like a Titan, that'd be so much worse. You Rain of Frogs all you want, man. All you want. Keep doing nothing. Like, we have much better cards than what he got rid of, so I'm not too worried about that. Harsh Rule is going to be pretty rough here. I don't think I have much of a choice. I can't beat a Harsh Rule anyway, so if he has it, he has it. It's one of those situations where you can't beat a card, so you have to pretend like your opponent doesn't have it. Like, what's the point of holding back these little small units as we get to turn 6 and 7? Just because on the, you know, just on the off chance of a Harsh Rule. Like, it's not really going to do anything. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just make you a 3/3. It is kind of too bad that we didn't get the Obelisk down. But, you know, if you're going to play with Rain of Frogs, sometimes you just have to get lucky. I think cards like that are really terrible. I think Rain of Frogs and, like, Subvert are so bad because they cost 4. Like, Sabotage and Treachery are fine. right? Sabotage and treachery are cheap, and you don't lose a lot by investing the time in them. Wasp. Let's just go for a big hit here. So what's our opponent going to do? I expect maybe some lightning strikes. And probably a block like here for sure. And then his guy's probably going to block one of my 2/2s. So we hit you for what? 6, 7, 8, 11, 14, 17. Yeah, that seems good. He's going for the most. He's going to protect his life total. That's very interesting, actually. That tells me he does not have a harsh rule. And he kept the lion up. So we have lethal here. Oh, I assume that's going to go get a harsh rule. Yeah, that was well worth it. Or I guess a lightning storm. Probably the better harsh rule at this point. Oh, no, just a harsh rule. So that Drake is coming down, but that's what a Wasp is for. Uh-oh. So we're just going to play it. I mean, our cards are expensive, so at this point, you know, if we need to play multiple cards in the same turn, we're going to need more mana than what we had. Torch is pretty mediocre against that kind of Aegis. I guess there's probably an Icaria in this guy's deck, too. Heart of the Vault would be pretty good. That's not bad either, actually. Let's get that train rolling. Yes. Anything else from Warp? No. Question is, was this a Obelisk or was it a Shatterglass Mage? Yeah, that's too bad. Well, Rain of Frogs into Rain of Frogs, I guess, was good enough. This deck is so greedy. Oh, well, and we did flood a little bit. It would have been nice if we drew some of our late game. Like, we haven't drawn a single card that costs more than 3, which is kind of unfortunate. Oh, except for him. But he just keeps, like, not being proactive, so I guess? Power card? No. No power card. Maybe he's flooded too? I don't know why you would get a harsh rule there. Like, are you that paranoid about dying? What do you think I have? Like a rally? I should put a rally in this deck. Why not? Wow, that's a lot of board wipes. This card cannot be good. Like, what do you really... Oh my god, this is almost awesome, but not quite. Sure. I mean, this is how it goes against control decks in Eternal. If they get the board wipes, they win. If they don't, they lose. Otherwise, and then in the meantime, you just play Solitaire. That's why even though I like control decks in general, because, you know, you get to do a lot of cool things like draw cards, see cards, you know, make long-term plans. In this game, it's a little bit monotonous and boring. Just because in the control tools in this game, you know, because we're only a couple sets deep, are so straightforward and, you know, run-of-the-mill, like board wipes and removal, like, it's kind of whatever. Hey. Can we draw a real card? Maybe. We just need to draw more warp stuff. Keep it going. Nope. Kind of stinks that we can't quite seem to get there. All we gotta do is get him down to 3. And then we can double torch him. No! That's okay though. Another harsh rule? Oh, wow, we actually won. Too much Dirtle. Not enough action. I think he made a mistake playing the Celestial Omens to get harsh rules and board wipes. I think if... I don't know what finishers that deck has, but certainly anything would have been... I mean, we had a 1-1 and a 2-6. I don't know why you would go for the board wipe. I guess the frog is just too much, man. Too much. These would have been cards I needed last game. Not that it mattered. But we're not going to keep this hand. On the okay, so on the draw, this hand's very tempting, just because we you know if we knew for a fact we're playing against a slower deck, this hand is perfect because it has mana that leads into discovery that leads into our late game, but we don't. And you generally want to mulligan like you're playing against an aggro or faster deck, but I kind of wish I could keep that hand. But this hand is much, much better. Playing against Feln. Oh wait, where's the deleted one? Or the deleted one, the depleted one, excuse me. Three Rain of Frogs, not good enough. It's because that card is not good. I guess it's good against... I guess if you really hate cockroaches and you just want to really give them the middle finger, you're going to play 4 copies of Rain of Frogs. But yeah, that's not really a thing as far as I'm concerned. We're going to go ahead and play this. Start ramping. This card is so good. Does everything I want. Annihilate. That's okay. We don't lose a lot by that happening. Looks like we have another control deck here. Well, let's see. We just got hit with an Annihilate. I think I do want to keep Titan. If you remember from the earlier game, this card is so important versus Feln. I'd like to try and draw out as much removal as possible before I play the Titan. It's probably our best card. Just because it deals with Impending Doom, Champion of Cunning with flying, Reapers. Ooh, Gorgon Fanatic, foil. God, these foils are so great. No. So one thing when you're dealing with an Infiltrate deck is you absolutely save things like Torch for after they attack, so you don't accidentally play into a Haunting Scream. Okay, now we are going to play Titan. Oh, I should have attacked first. Oops. Because now we can leave up Torch. Huh. That's weird. Oh, that sucks. Sure. Gain that life. Sure. Another... Ooh, thank you. Oh, this is a tough call. So the issue here is I can play this and shoot this guy down and then attack with the Titan. But next turn, if he goes like Haunting Scream, Death Strike on my Sandstorm Titan, I guess he only got 3 cards in hand. He didn't go for the last turn. I think this is too good, but this does run the risk of our opponent getting lots and lots of tempo back. Unless we drew another Torch there, which would have been pretty amazing, but... unlikely, as we have 3 of them in our hand. It's not the end of the world if they do that, but it's pretty bad for us if they go, like, Removal Spell, Haunting Scream. Yeah. What does this even do? Hold on. When you gain life, discard that many cards from your deck. Then, if you have no cards in your hand, sacrifice... Holy crap. Wow, that's pretty good. Oh, wait a minute. I guess if they have like a Torch or something, I'd rather them kill my Heart of the Vault. Yeah, sounds good. Let's draw and see what's on top. Ooh, a Wasp is very good here. But we have double Torch, so I'm gonna play this. I mean, our opponent's got one card in hand, so... That is pretty absurd, dude. $25 damage. I think we double torch this, and then we torch that. If we double torch and get rid of this, so wait, I gotta read this. When you gain life, discard that many cards from your deck. Then if you have no cards in your hand, sacrifice means to an end to deal 25 damage. I don't know why you wouldn't just be doing that. I'm kind of confused here. Well, I'm not sure exactly what the right play is here. Let's torch this and swing. So I guess that last card's probably a power, and they haven't been able to play it, is my guess. So our opponent has to gain life to activate this, and they have to have no cards in hand. Oh, no cards in your deck. Oh, thank God. Okay, that makes life a lot easier. Yeah, let's play Mystic Extended. And just leave up one torch. Okay, that makes so much more sense. That seems so broken otherwise. Oh, man. It's not very nice. And he's got a Vara. That sucks. Yeah, we're gonna use these. I gotta start attacking for lots of damage. So now there's no way our opponent can get through with a Haunting Scream. So we have a 2-turn clock. Kind of a cool strategy though. That's pretty neat. Where is my Shatterglass Mage? Not that it's probably gonna matter. Oh, yeah, we'll do it anyway. Always play the Warp card first. And let's draw a card. Not bad. No reason to play anything. We have lethal. I don't see what our opponent can do here. Yay, Praxis! Yeah, not bad. Good little run. So let's go ahead and do a closing deck tech and call it a video. So, I hope you got a good idea of what kind of things you can do with Warp, or what kind of deck you can play. The main thing to understand, I think, is that Warp is not a sexy mechanic. It's not as cool as Revenge, where things just drop into play, you know, or as aggressive as Spark, or something like Charge or Lifesteal. Like it doesn't really do anything to like the board or the game state. It's basically just a way to interact with your draws, but it's a great way to smooth out your draws. So if you hate top deck wars, which I do, and you hate top decking games, which I also do, Warp really smooths out that problem, because you get so many more options and you see so many more cards for free, basically, because it happens when they're in your deck. It's great. So Warp, I think, is a grindy, value-driven mechanic that's not about knockout blows or really fast starts. It's just about really making sure you always have an option to do something proactive, and going with it from there. So this is the way I chose to build the deck. I've messed around with some other cards, mainly Excavate. Excavate is really interesting with Warp. I think there's something there, I took it out for this video for Predator's Instinct because I wanted the extra removal, and this has been pretty good. And I really wanted to try Dawnwalker as well. And Dawnwalker and Instinct is such an old interaction that's really powerful. And because I was thinking that I might face maybe a few more control decks or more Cockroaches decks, I think Dawnwalker is a little bit better in those situations because you can't outgrind or outvalue the Cockroach deck. That engine is so powerful. Once it gets rolling, it's pretty much unbeatable, as we all know. So I wanted a little more power and a little less value. But I could see in a different meta where you would want Excavate, because you can do things with Excavate like where because one of the bad things about that card is that it goes on top of your deck. It's really slow, so you either have to miss a draw step. Well, basically, no matter what, you have to miss a draw to get the card you want into your hand to be able to play it, right? That's Excavate's downside. But with Warp, it doesn't really have that anymore. So, in some of the games I've played before, you can do things like put a Heart of the Vault back on, immediately draw it, immediately play it, and then draw the next card, which is -2, and kind of go that way. You can get back a Shatterglass Mage you can play immediately. So there is something there, I think, with Warp and Excavate, but that's really slow. So I don't know if that's really as good as just being able to kill something. Something else I've tried is like the Forge, where it makes all your cards -2, but that card's really slow, and you really don't need it. I mean, you saw in this video that we didn't have a huge problem with mana playing our 6s and 5s. You get there pretty efficiently because you can stall the game out with things like Scribe, Torch, Titan, letting you draw those extra cards, so you can get the extra mana, so you can play things. You don't really need the cost reduction that much. It's kind of a win more card, and I was never really happy to play it on it because it costs 5. I was never really happy to play it over a Shatterglass Mage if I wanted to be aggressive, or an Infuser if I wanted to be grindy. This card is just fantastic, but I still think 2 is probably the best number. I'm just doing 3 for now because so far that's working. But that's the deck. I think you should try Warp. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's super grindy. It makes for really interactive games. And it's just good old-fashioned, lots of units, lots of combat, lots of big guys, and good value. If you wanted to, you could even go bigger and play some of the 7-cost Warp guys, but I don't think they're as good as just having extra Mystic Ascendants. But you can play extra Wasp if you want more interaction. But I do think that you want to have a high curve because Warp, again, is a value slow mechanic. It's not an aggressive mechanic. Because Warp is really only as good as much mana you have in play. So if you want to play like a token deck with Warp and play lots of cheap things, I think that's a mistake, because you're just going to roll through your deck so quickly with a bunch of low units, just get wiped out and don't do a lot, unless your opponent's doing very little. Whereas big cards, always having access to big units that you can play and kind of just like hot, kind of like lava, just slowly move through the game, I think is better than trying to hit a bunch of Warp cards in a row for 10 damage. Whereas if you just attack once with like a Titan and a Mage, that's 10 damage. So that's all you need. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure you check out Numot Gaming for all your Returnal content needs. And good luck on the ladder. I will see you next time.